Today I'm going to be making a wire bonsai tree. Here's a previous one that I made. Intricate, beautiful. Let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to need a few things. The main thing being wire. You can get 1,000 feet of 20 gauge aluminum wire on Amazon for $14. We need something that we can poke holes in that has some depth to it. I have this lunchbox here. We'll need something to poke the holes. Then this is one of the most important tools I have right here. It's a round nose pliers, and we're going to be using that to make all the little leaves. Something to cut the wire. I just have a wire strippers here. I have some bigger pliers here, but the ends of the pliers are wrapped in paper and electrical tape. This prevents the pliers from damaging the wire when I grab it. Finally, I have a pot here. If I wrap the wire around the pot once, I get a strip that's about this long. We're going to want about 60. I'm not really sure. We'll find out. 60 strips of even length. All right, that's 60. And that gives me about 60 strands of wire, about the same length. You can kind of gauge how thick your tree is going to be at this stage. I think I want a bit thicker of a tree, so I'm going to make some more strands. Now we have about 80 strands. I like the thickness. So the next step is to punch the holes and then slide every piece of wire into the hole. It helps to straighten the wire out here. Since I'm doing a cascade style bonsai, I want longer wires for the long cascade at the bottom. But if you're doing a different style that involves a shorter amount, like maybe you're doing a formal upright style, I would recommend not using quite as long of wires. I wonder what Kermit had for lunch. At this point, it's a good idea to have a reference of what kind of tree you're making, what you kind of want it to look like, because here we're going to start twisting the trunk and pulling off different branches. It's a good idea to have a little practice piece before you actually start with the big piece. So as you can see, I'm taking wire from the back and pulling it through these two branches to the front. So that's kind of coming through the whole trunk. And I'll start twisting these guys. And I'll start twisting this guy. And I'll twist them together. And what ends up happening is it looks like these two branches are just twisting out of each other. It's okay if the wire doesn't look perfectly even or there's some random wire sticking out. And it's okay because in traditional bonsai, there's this principle called wabi-sabi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but wabi-sabi is the acceptance of that randomness, having the artist express that randomness through their creation. Okay, here I'm going to pull out another branch. I'm going to split it up into 3, pull my selected branch through the middle of the other 2, give it its own independent twist, put the other 2 together, give them their own independent twist, and then twist the 2 together, and continue on my merry way. I'm not scratching the table, but I'm kind of afraid I'm going to, so I just put this towel down. The shrinking of branches incorporates another principle of bonsai, which is having proportion among all your elements. That means I want my bonsai to look like an actual tree. I want the proportions to be correct, and I don't want random branches to look abnormally fat. Now I've finished all of the twisting for one branch. Here you can see I have them kind of breaking off at uneven points, kind of random, all the way down to single strands of wire. I'll show you how to do the leaves now. Take our round nose pliers. I start at the very tip of them and we'll twist a little loop in so that it looks like this. Now we're going to come back to the end of the wire, move down just a little bit, and twist another full loop in so that now it looks like this. So the wire comes over the top, over the bottom, over the top, and now we're going to switch and make it go over the bottom. The farther you go, the larger your loops become. So I'm going to go a little bigger with this next loop. It's about far enough. I'll go back and flatten it all up. Now let's look at one of these over here that I've already finished. I loop it up into a little pile right here. Boom. If your wrists, fingers, or forearms are starting to hurt, take a break. I don't want you getting carpal tunnel or injuring your ligaments on my watch.
A few inches later.
As you can probably see, it's starting to look like a cascading bonsai tree. About halfway done. This top part has a lot more pieces of wire than I actually want. So what I can do is I can cut out the center of this coil and then twist the others around it. And you can't even tell that I cut out pieces of wire. These top wires are all too long. Alright, it's the next day and I have finished twisting the top half of this bonsai tree. Let's talk about the next step, base selection. I'm going to be sticking with a more traditional style base for this tree. For my case with the Cascade Bonsai, it looks like a taller base, and this kind of has these like angular, like thick trunk, which would mean I would want to do more sharp edges on my base. If you think your tree looks a little more delicate, sinuous movements, I would recommend more round edges on your base. Color is another thing that you have to take into account. When you're picking the color of your base, try to find something that complements the color of your tree. In my case, I'm going to pick a light colored wood to complement the silver of the tree. Okay, here's a rough design. I've got a 4x4 right here. Should be good width and depth. Shout out to my uncle for letting me use his shop. Alright, what are all these almost parallel lines? Well, it's going to look like that. I'm going to cut away this portion, and what's going to be left behind are little angled feet. Get cutting. Just a reminder about wabi sabi. I'm showing an acceptance of imperfection. Testing is important. Fun fact, bonsai is actually Japanese for tray planting. Alright, so I got the feet all routed out. I thought I could route out a little drainage hole, but I think it's better to just use a Fosner bit there. Just kidding, I used the spade bit, but same difference. Alright, next I'm going to route out a bit of the top of the pot. I want it to look like the tree is recessed into the pot, kind of like the dirt level is sitting below the top of the pot.
Eventually.
I finished sanding when I had put some conditioner on the wood and applied 2 coats of polyurethane. I'd say we have a decent base now. Moving forward, we can start twisting the roots. The roots are gonna sit nicely in here. I want it to kind of look like a puddle. Just kind of gonna make it up. Remember the principle of asymmetry. So I don't want this to look like a perfect spiral or something like that. All right. Now we got the roots all finished, and the next step is to put the roots into our base. If you remember from the tree I showed you in the beginning of the video, I'm going to drill holes into the base that are about the same diameter as the roots and slide the roots right in there. Okay, what is this madness right here? Basically what I did is I mapped out where all my roots were, and then I went through a bunch of random drill bits and found drill bits that were about the same diameter as each piece of root. I just have them in this piece of 2x4 scrap wood, nice little display and also easy access when I am trying to figure out where in the actual pot I want to drill the holes. Final step, make it look pretty. I think it's finished. Thanks for watching. I'm really happy how this turned out. I think all the hours I put into it really paid off. Be sure to hit the thumbs up if you liked this video and subscribe to my channel for more content like this in the future.